You brought up the Morning Brew, and I recently started reading that just a few weeks ago. And I feel like now the Morning Brew wants me to work for them to build their audience. I don't know if it's on some kind of set pattern, but this morning I got an email from them saying, if you send this link to your friends
Yeah,
and they sign up, for every sign up on this pattern, we're going to send you some swag.
yeah.
So I feel like now they're using me to build their audience for them. So I don't know if that's a good thing to do or a bad thing to do or
So they had a lot of success with the referral program early on. So it's a it's a piece of what they do, and they also have a massive audience. So again, they don't need that many people to do it for it to be sort of beneficial. I personally, while I do think referral programs can work, I experimented with one once or twice and ultimately sort of backburnered it. I do think they're probably, again, who am I to say they've had a lot of success, but in my opinion, they're a little overly aggressive with it. So it is, I share it because it is a tactic that certainly can work. It is not one, while I tried it, it is not one that I have done regularly or really stuck with. So I think it's case by case basis. And I think it depends on sort of your audience and who it is and what they want. The other thing I will say, and I've talked closely with the guys that run Sparkloop, who are great, and it is a great software and it is super helpful. And one of the things they said to me was, a lot of times people try this referral stuff with, oh, you can win a coffee mug and you can win a t-shirt and the sort of merchandise prizes. And that typically those don't work all that well. That your prizes, again, it depends on what your audience is, but it could be, figuring out what your audience really wants. In most cases, they don't want a t-shirt with the newsletter name on it, right? They want some sort of, it all depends what you offer. But I think, I would approach it that way, right? So if you're a consultant, maybe it's a free coaching call or it's, something that people would be more, it really has to be something they want to motivate them. And I think that's part of it too, right? You're feeling like, okay, they're bombarding me with this referral stuff. I don't care about getting a coffee mug, right? But if they said to you, I'll just flip it around, right? If they said, we'll give you a free ad in Morning Brew,
mm,
that might be more valuable, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with what the reward is really drives the action or not, and probably your audience is how your audience feels about
okay. I'm not going to use my referral link just
it. Yeah,
and make them work for it. And I had one other question, if it's all right
yeah,
if I ask another thing. So you talk about the Facebook ads, and if anyone else is like me, my feed is now nothing but ads. I mean, are
yeah.
Facebook ads really still that effective as they were back in the day? Because now it seems that I can't get. I'm like scrolling to find my friends' information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're as effective as they once were. Again, it's a little bit case by case. I do think their targeting is really powerful. And so it all sort of depends, right? Like if you have a specific niche and the ability to get in front of specific people, the problem with seeing all the ads in your feed really is that you feel like they're not relevant or interesting, right? So if you were I'll give you an example, right? So if I have uh, if I wrote something about how to get life coaching clients, and I'm able to show it to specifically people whose job title is life coach, it's relevant, right? And it's free, right? And I'm not giving. I think this is the other difference, right? Most of the ads you see are probably going straight for the ask. They're not content driven, right? There's a big difference between you, like, let's say you're a life coach and there's an article. I'm not selling anything, right? I'm not even saying sign up to my newsletter. I'm just saying, hey, here's an article about how to get life coach clients, and you're a life coach, and you go, okay, I'm going to click that, and the article's actually good, right? It all goes back to, like, it has to be good, right? The article's actually good and valuable. That's a very different experience than the ads that say, buy my training program, give me your email address to get this, that, or the other. It's the difference. It's funny. It almost in some ways mirrors what I was saying initially about newsletters providing value. I'm suggesting run ads that provide value as opposed to ads that are trying to immediately extract value.
I got
But
it.
yes, it's a Facebook is again, and that's the same thing. Another one. I a few years ago I ran a lot of Facebook ads in the early days of my newsletter. It helped me grow. It was very effective. I don't do it anymore for all sorts of reasons. Facebook is what Facebook is. But yes, it can work.
I got it. Okay, that's good to know. Oh, okay. So I have a question
Mhm.
from Tab. Says, I work with a group who disagree on the design of a newsletter. I praise for a design as simple as possible, something that looks like a regular email sent from friend to friend. Others say it must be branded with images, logo, even videos. Do you have any thoughts on?
Yes. So my instinctive reaction is I would side with that person. I like simpler, better. But that said, I would start with like, what are the goals? What are you really trying to accomplish? And which of the two designs is going to better accomplish that? I think that's a conversation to have. I think a lot of times people get bogged down in how it looks, as opposed to taking a step back and going, we're trying to accomplish A, B, and C. Which of these is going to do that better? And then the other thing, one of the great things is you can split test it. You can try it. You can go, hey, let's send two different versions, or for a month, let's do this design, and for a month, let's do that design. And then let's see what works. But again, you have to judge what worked based on your goals, right? What are you actually trying to accomplish? Because work can be, what does it mean? And I think that's a good conversation for anyone to have with any newsletter, right? What does it mean for this to work? Right? What does it mean for my newsletter to be successful? And that all depends, right? For some people, they might go, this newsletter works if it's growing our audience. But other people might go, this newsletter works if it's getting me 2 new clients a month, right? So those are very different, and you need to be clear on what you're trying to accomplish. And again, I'll just use that as an example, right? So I have no idea what that business is, but let's say that business, their goal is we want to get more clients, right? Maybe the well-designed one, and I'm just making this up, but they might go, the well-designed one got us 10, subscribers grew 10%. The non-well, the simpler design didn't get us new subscribers, but the simpler design got us clients. So which one worked? If the goal is getting clients, the other one worked, right? And so I think in order to judge it, you need to first go, you need to define success and then judge it that way, and not be afraid to test it and see what happens.
Good advice, I think. Oh, it says thank you.
Cool.
Did anyone have a question? LaDonna, did you have a question? You did.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Those were great questions, by the way. I've made a lot of notes just from those.
Cool.
So my question is, I took a look at your newsletter, your website newsletter,
Yes.
Josh, and I had asked about doing a blog last week, and your newsletter, it says that it's a newsletter,
Mhm.
but in terms of formatting, it looks like a blog to me. So
Mhm.
now I'm confused. Like, what is the difference between a blog and the newsletter style that you're teaching us?
Uh, well, that's a little bit of a tricky question, but the I think so. The short answer is there doesn't have to be much difference. Let me back up a second. I think that, let's say you just had a blog, right? If you just had a blog, I would tell you, why do you not also have a newsletter? Because why wouldn't you want to be emailing people to get it? Even if you didn't create a separate product, right? If you
Okay.
just had a blog. Now, let's say you just had a newsletter. I would say, why are you not also publishing this on your website so it can be found in search and people can see it through the archives,
Okay. Got
right?
it.
So
Right.
the short answer is I view blog versus newsletter as delivery mechanism. And if you're doing either, you should have both, because it's as simple as a copy and paste. Now, if you choose to have the newsletter be different, you certainly can. But you see what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's
Right.
like, if you have and by the way, I actually think, and I even go a step further, because I think email is the best connection you can have. It's there is no algorithm. Like, it's the most reliable way you can reach people. I think even if you had no website and we're just doing social posts, like people that are just using Instagram, I don't understand why you wouldn't also have a newsletter where once a week, even if you just emailed links and go, hey, here's the 5 things I posted on Instagram this week. Because to me, it's all about trying to reach people. And when you're just doing social platforms, you're already creating the content, but you're just saying, okay, well, Instagram will show this to whoever they want, as opposed to taking control of your audience. So they can be the same, they
Okay.
can be different, but I to me, it's, you would have, if you're doing either, you would have both, if that makes sense.
Okay, that does make sense, especially the way you kind of compared the two together and how they would be used.
Yeah.
Um, right. I think I would just go ahead and start with the newsletter. I've always struggled with the idea of trying to do a blog, but
Mhm.
the way you've explained the newsletter, like I can see that. That makes sense to me.
Here's
So
good.
then,
So here's how I would. Here's the other way I would think about it. Forget all the terms, right? Forget blog, social media, newsletter, right? Your, and even content, right? People get bogged down in like, oh, I have to, all you're trying to do is create specific value for a specific audience.
right.
Everything else is a delivery mechanism,
Okay.
right? So you
Right.
go, I'm going to create this thing, whatever it is, right? It could be written, could be video. You decide however you want to do it, right? This thing that provides this value to these people. Now, how do I want to deliver it to them? I want to email them. Oh, it's a newsletter. I want to have it on my website so people can see it. Oh, it's a blog, right? Like people get bogged down in like, oh, what these things are. And I just think that they're distribution channels, they're delivery mechanisms, right? And they can be whatever you want. That's why even with me, right? I have newsletters, I have weekday newsletters that are one sentence.
Wow.
And then I have weekend newsletters that are much longer. So if you would look at the like, let's say a Tuesday newsletter that I sent, quote unquote newsletter, that was one sentence, you wouldn't go, this feels like a blog post.
No.
But you might go, this feels like a tweet,
Okay.
right? You know what I mean? So it's
Okay.
just create value,
And then distribute it.
and not get
Okay.
bogged down on what the format has to be.
Okay. Excellent. So
Cool.
then I have one more
Yep.
question about the Facebook posting when you or the ads.
Yeah.
You so for the Facebook ad, you've said the ad should deliver value, not just go for the ask.
Mhm.
So in the newsletter ad, would you say the same thing? The ad should deliver value.
Well, maybe, maybe not. So here's the big difference, right? On Facebook, there's built-in sharing.
Okay.
A newsletter, less so. A
Okay.
newsletter ad, right? So if I run an ad in a newsletter, yes, theoretically, you might click through to the article and you might share that, but it's not like Facebook where things can really sort of, quote unquote, go viral. So in a newsletter ad, I think I would experiment. The truth is, I would experiment, right? So let's say you found some newsletter about the travel industry or something that fit perfectly, right? You might
Right.
go, all right, I'm going to buy 2 ads, and one I'm going to drive to my sign up page, and one I'm going to drive to a piece of content, and I'm going to measure. Let's see what happens,
Okay.
right? Also, in that case, it might be 2 different ways to reach the same audience. Some people might click the ad, and some might be more interested in the content on and I would experiment on Facebook too, right? Because it may be, oh, people really are converting and just signing up right away. So you'd want to test it. But in general, I think about it different because Facebook is so just click the one thing to share it with everybody. So there's a
Okay.
little more upside there. People are less likely to share from a newsletter, but I would
Okay.
test it.
So in a newsletter, since that's specifically in terms of getting an ad, since
Mhm.
that is you're kind of saying, hey, your audience is the audience I'm looking for.
Yep.
And so for that, since it's the same audience, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same industry if it's the same audience. Maybe you're just
Correct.
catching them in a different interest
Right.
channel.
So let me give you a perfect example, right? So I think when we talked last time, we were talking about like affluent adventurer, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So you might find some travel newsletters and be like, let's try this. But you might also, as an experiment, find some like investment newsletters because
Right.
you're reaching the affluent part and go,
Right.
all right, I'm reaching a bunch of people that have money. Let's see how this does. So, right. So, to your point, it doesn't have to be your niche, it has to be your people,
Okay.
potentially.
And then the content of the ad within the scope of that
Mhm.
newsletter, it shouldn't be like it should kind of match that same content
Yep.
feel and style, right? It shouldn't
Yeah.
be
So
like,
so let's use that example, right? So your
okay,
ad in the travel one, you're talking to people that are interested in travel, right?
right,
So your ad, I'm completely riffing here, but it might be something like, tired of the same old boring vacations, looking for a new adventure, check out this, right?
right,
Your
right.
ad in the investment newsletter might be, you made a ton of money this year. When you like to spend some of it to treat yourself to a once in a lifetime experience, check this out, right? I'm
Okay,
playing to the money angle. I'm playing to the sort of adventure travel angle. So
okay.
yes, you would not run the same ad both. You would sort of cater to whoever you're speaking to.
So stay in context.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Josh. I
Welcome.
appreciate the
You're
time.
welcome.